video is just gonna be me yelling about a horse movie for an indeterminate amount of time. I have an outline. I already filmed this once. The vibes of this video are gonna be the same of the video I already recorded but deleted. Chaotic and messy. Alright, so we're just gonna go for it. Alright. Okay. Spirit the Stallion of the Cimarron is a 2002 DreamWorks animated film directed by Kelly Asbury and Lorna Cook. Very simply, the movie tells the story of a feral horse named Spirit, who has a voiceover done by Matt Damon, how he is captured by the U.S. Army, forms a bond with a Lakota man named Little Creek, and eventually finds his way home. This was one of my favorite movies as a young child. The score is done by Hans Zimmerman, who is at his most Hans Zimmerman. The songs Can't Take Me and Get Off of My Back are on countless of my Spotify playlists because they're that good. And it's a fun movie. It's a movie both children and adults can enjoy. And this movie does something that you don't see a lot in our media here in the US. It talks about the negative impacts of American colonization and westward expansion. It goes there. It doesn't verbally say like, oh, doesn't it suck how the US is invading the West? But it doesn't need to say that. It shows you through the horses and through the experiences and the struggles of the Lakota people. Spirit the horse is a manifestation of the spirit, no pun intended, of the West. All the way from the nature to, again, the indigenous groups of people. And again, you don't see people talking about these topics. When we show Western media about like cowboys and settling westward, we don't bring up indigenous people, at least not in a positive context, or even talk about the great deal of suffering they went through and how those actions still negatively impact them to this day. And for a movie made the same year I was born, long time ago, that is amazing. I'd also like to point out that Little Creek and his father, whom are the only two credited Native American speakers in this film, they are both voiced by actual indigenous people, which is amazing, like awesome. And I think Little Creek's voice actor, Daniel Student, I don't know, is actually Lakota himself. I may be wrong, so don't at me. And again, I think that's awesome. I think DreamWorks, the first time they made this movie, everything right. The message was good, visuals were beautiful, story was good for all audiences. And normally I just say, all right, video done, package closed, awesome. But big companies can't just seem to let good things be. So in 2017, we get the Netflix series Spirit Riding 3. And Spirit Riding 3 is one of those series that has nothing to do with the original source material. It's like the Shyamalan movie that he made about Avatar: The Last Airbender. Nothing to do with each other. Basically nothing. Now, I watched most of this show because I have younger sisters who like it a lot. And I'm not saying there's no redeeming qualities of the show. I do openly acknowledge that I don't like it because I know DreamWorks, this is a DreamWorks film, not a Disney film. DreamWorks made it because they probably wanted to sell toys and they realized they didn't have a lot of stuff that they could market towards girls, young girls. But again, like I said, there are some good things about this show. For one, Lucky, the main protagonist, she is a biracial character. She is Mexican American. She has a white father and a Mexican American mother. And that's good. I think we definitely need more biracial representation in media, especially media directed for kids. I think that's good. I think that's wonderful. And overall, what I like about the show is that it's pretty good for a kid's show. Like, it has general good messages. It shows girls working together, being resourceful, using their heads, problem solving, things like that. And I think that's good. That's good for young children to see. And if it had zero relation to the original DreamWorks movie, I don't think I'd have as much problems with it. Again, it's not my cup of tea, even if my nostalgia is removed from it, but that's fine. But now I'm gonna get into things I don't really like about this series, and almost all of these problems are present in the 2021 movie. In the series, Western expansion and moving westward, there is no negatives to that. It is never painted in a negative or even complicated light. It's just like, yes, expanding westward is good and it's inevitable and there is no negative impacts of it. Lucky's dad is literally a railroad owner. A literal railroad owner. And there's like no conflicts of like, oh no, the railroad, it's gonna go into the horses' habitat and that's not good. There's not even that in any meaningful way. Like, it's a way that's solved in like as much time as a problem needs to be solved in a 25-minute episode series. Also, in this series, there is no indigenous people. There might be, okay, let's lie. I think there's one indigenous character, but they don't add anything and they don't bring up any meaningful conversation, at least to the best of my knowledge, which is a shame, and we'll get into that here in a minute. Every character in this show annoyed the hell out of me at some point. Every single one of them. Abigail especially, like, I get it, she's 10, but there was not an episode where I was like sitting there watching like I didn't want to slap her. She just, that's a personal thing. Again, I get it, she's a 10-year-old character, but like, yeah. Yeah, and also the show is not historical. It does not need to be historical. I mean, the girls are wearing pants, and we have people of color who are just allowed to walk around on their own, minding their own business, being completely fine. And this movie most likely takes place in either the 1860s or the 1870s, which, if you know U.S. history, but that's not important. It's just a side note. Then we get into the 2021 movie, which is basically like a condensed, it's just the show in a fanfiction, told in a fanficky way. That's not positive, that's not negative, it's neutral. Basic plot of this movie is Lucky is clumsy, they move west, her dad's building a railroad, her mom's still dead. Wild horses, cool, dad doesn't want her going near wild horses. Horses captured, she and Spirit go to free them with Abigail and Peru. Bad guys are bad. Spirit's captured, girls have to save Spirit, and they go back, live happily ever after. Again, these movies and these shows on their own are fine. It's fine storytelling, it's mediocre, right? Here's the thing for me. The horses are not characters in these shows or in this movie. In the original Spirit, the character Spirit was a three-dimensional character. You could take away the voiceover from Matt Damon and you'd still get all the feeling, all the understanding of what this character is going through and thinking. You do not get that with these horses. Spirit also, in the original movie, he frees himself on so many occasions. He frees other horses, he breaks free, he does not let anyone tame him, and when he does let someone ride him, when he does let Little Creek ride him, it is coming from a place of true and equal respect, of camaraderie. And I'm not saying Lucky doesn't respect her horse, but it is not the same, and you can tell that when watching this. And I think the biggest thing for me, the biggest disappointment, is the fact that DreamWorks had it right the first time with their first story. Focusing on the horses, I think, was a very fun choice. Is it necessary? Maybe not, but the overall theme of talking about the negative impacts of Western expansion, of colonization, that was good. Because again, we don't talk about it. And especially, it's not talked about to young children. And at 6 years old, I wasn't going to fully comprehend and grasp colonialism. How could I? But the original Spirit movie exposed me to it, so I could get a very basic understanding. And as I grew older and I did learn more, I had a reference point from my childhood, and I appreciate the movie even more now because of that. These other two series don't have anything like that. And I think that's a shame, because I think we need to stop acting like this period of time was good, completely good, like there were no problems. Like I said before, we need to acknowledge that bad things happened in this period of time. There were negative effects of Western expansion. We can't just keep ignoring that. When we talk about history, we need to look at the full picture, not just one aspect. And I think we need to include kids in that. And I know some people are saying, well, this was such a dark and horrible time. Kids don't need to know that. You don't need to show horror on screen. You don't need to show someone getting their head cut off. You don't need to show incredible violence for people to understand that. And kids deserve to be exposed to serious topics. Kids deserve to be treated like they can understand things like this, because they can. Like, again, you don't have to go into the full detail. You don't need to go into explaining mass genocide and things like that, but you can expose children to this. And let them understand and comprehend that, so when they get older, again, they have something to look back on and say, oh, this is that. And it's just very, it's like I said, it's disappointing. And I honestly don't think the Spirit series or movie had to make, again, like, I understand the series was made to sell toys. Cool. But this movie itself, it's not really anything original. Again, it's just the show packed in to sort of like this fanficky thing. And I don't know why why it isn't a movie in direct connection to the series, because the series and the movie are two different entities. Really, they didn't need to be. You could have made this an side adventure movie. You could have done that. But it's just, I'm beating a dead horse, no pun intended. But again, the original movie did such a good job talking about this very dark and sometimes complicated topic in a way that kids could understand, in a way that adults could appreciate, through beautiful visuals and music and emotion. The first film had so much emotion, and that is another thing the series and new movies sort of lack. True, meaningful emotion. And again, my opinion. And you know what? I think a wonderful thing that the first movie did is focus on the horses. But if you wanted to make a Spirit movie or series and have a human protagonist, a female human protagonist with the horse, you could have done that and still kept the indigenous representation. Roughly, I said this earlier, roughly I believe the time period that all the series and movies takes place is the 1860s and the 1870s. During this time, there were many conflicts between the US and many indigenous groups, especially groups of the plains. This year, especially back in June, was the 140th anniversary of the battles of Little Bighorn, the Battle of Greasy Grass, Custer's Last Stand, all that. And you know who played pivotal roles in those battles? Warrior women. There are so many warrior women you could have drawn inspiration of, like Pretty Nose or Susie Shot in the Eye, both whom were honored as war chiefs. Susie Shot in the Eye, Chief Sitting Bull placed his war bonnet on her head to honor her. Short PSA, don't wear native headdresses. Don't do it. It's wrong. They are earned and they are sacred. They're not your Halloween costume. Don't wear one to a rodeo. Okay, PSA done. But you have inspiration right there. You can make a strong female character and have her be indigenous. you can do that and you could build a stronger story. And right now, I'm about to write a new spirit movie right on the spot. We're doing this. Okay, so in two different parts of the West, we see a horse being born and a young Lakota being born. A young Lakota girl being born. And you watch them grow up in their respected communities and societies, learning important skills to survive in life. All is good and peaceful until the U.S. armies show up. The U.S. armies come and wrangle feral horses to bring back to train for the cavalry, and the Lakota village is attacked by the cavalry, and the girl is taken hostage. Both this stallion and this young girl are taken to a U.S. fort. The horse, as mentioned before, is meant to be broken to be added to the cavalry. The girl is meant as a bargaining piece and hostage, and they hope to make her a translator as well. Both are resistant to the rules that the government wants to put onto them and force them to conform to. Both end up escaping and try to rely on each other to help them survive, using skills that they have learned from their families to help navigate the wilderness back home. And the girl and the stallion reach home. They can see her village just beyond the horizon, maybe not even a full day's journey. But behind them, they can see the U.S. Army coming to attack her people once again. A battle breaks out. There's chaos and confusion. No one is sure what to do, but the girl and her friend figure a way to survive. When the dust settles, the U.S. Army is defeated and the Lakota people are victorious. The girl is reunited with her family and she bids a bittersweet farewell to her friend, who takes off into the wilderness to be with his herd once more. I just pulled that out of... I just did that. I didn't even think about it. You could have so... Yeah, but... And also, they use names like Spirit Riding Free and Spirit Untamed. He's tamed. Lucky tames him. Yeah, he doesn't like being kept in captivity and he doesn't wear a saddle, but he's not a free horse. He still does whatever this girl tells him to. When Spirit was ridden by Little Creek, it was this mutual respect relationship. It was acknowledgement that these are two individuals who are being oppressed by foreigners, who have both had their freedom temporarily taken away from them. But now they're coming together to take back that freedom. And again, I think it's a shame that the series or the original movie didn't do that. And you know what? Maybe we will start to see more stories like the original Spirit. I'm not setting my hopes high, but you know what? If we can get movies like Black Panther and Raya and the Last Dragon, I think we can start seeing more Indigenous stories from Indigenous storytellers. I think that's something we could see more of if we're willing to listen and ask for it. Alright, this was a long, rambling video. It was not that well put together. I have an outline here, but I was all over the place. So yeah, that's my video. Those are my thoughts. If you want to do more research into the Lakota people and like things like the Battle of Little Bighorn and the Battle of Greasy Grass, sources I used and I found really helpful were actually from TikTok, from @diamond_dog74 and @LakotaGuy. Both were very good sources, very fun sources. Recommend those. And also, if you do research online, the best sources come from those tribes themselves. So there's that. But yeah, thank you for watching my video. Am I getting too worked up over a horse movie? Maybe, but you know what? It's 2021. I can do what I want without... You know what? Yeah. My anger is justified. My anger is justified. Okay. That is all I have for you today, guys, gals, and non-binary pals. See you next time. Live long and prosper. Peace out.